Hi, everybody. This is Tim Keefe with Transform CX, and welcome to another Bantercast with my great friend, Andreas Wieman from TTEC. We're here this afternoon to talk about Chat GPT. And we know this is the new and exciting buzzwords, and we just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about our thoughts about it, some of the things we've seen in the past, and hopefully inspire some other thinking about how this amazing tool can be something that we use going forward in a variety of implementations. So with that, Mr. Andreas, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm great. I'm just kind of in shock. You introed me and said great friend. That's I'm still processing that.
The check cleared. That's why I said that.
I thought you typed in to Chat GPT or GPT-4, I guess we should call it, say what would be a good intro, and that's what it told you to say. So
no, the intro was much different, so I decided to go with that one.
No, I think it's a good topic, and so anywhere that you go on social media right now, you're seeing this enormous buzz around GPT-4, the newest iteration of it, right? And it's kind of refreshing to see because you're bringing visibility to something that has a lot of potential, right? But it's only the potential is as good as you make it to put into practice for where you want to see the benefit, right? And so I think there's a lot of folks who get really excited about new technology when it comes out, and then that, what's the right way to describe it, are kind of immediate gratification that is, the norm now. When that doesn't happen, people get a little, put off, and then they start moving their attention to somewhere else. And so kind of interesting to see the potential GPT has and interest that it has with everybody that interacts to it, from PhDs or potential PhDs, and having them help them write research papers, and people just playing around, with it on helping write fictional stories. It's kind of refreshing to see the interaction that the tool has. So that's kind of where I'll start off there. But what are your thoughts on what you've seen so far?
Well, my first reaction was, now we know what the buzzword for 2023 is going to be, right? And I feel like every year we have a different buzzword in industry, and that tends to dominate the conversation for the first half of the year. Everybody's like, as you said, this is going to change everything, or this is what everybody needs to be doing. A few years ago, we had a big, I guess it was 2018, 2019, we had a lot of conversation about AI, and you and I were both directly involved in a couple of, sales and potential implementations in that space. But then we move on, but I think what's different here is, one, it's very tangible, right? Like, so I can go online and start using it as a consumer directly, right? It's not so much like, here's something that's coming into technology. People are going to talk about it. It's going to evolve businesses, but it's something that enterprises or government are going to have to implement, and we'll see the results of it. Here, as consumers, we can directly interact with it. Like, to your point, I could go on and write me an introduction for, a guy I kind of have mixed feelings about how he is as a human being. But now we can actually, see some of that. I also am a little concerned with the doom and gloom. Like, everything's dramatic, right? Like, Elon Musk is saying we need to put a stop on AI development because, you literally have pundits saying this could be the end of the world. And I think I don't necessarily agree with that. And I could be wrong. There are very smart people that are saying that, but I think the reality is this is a tool. It's like many tools, it's how you use it, where do you use it, and what are you trying to do with it that is going to make the difference. And I don't think we're there yet. I think we're still at like, this is a shiny, sharp object. Let me play with it and hopefully not cut a couple of fingers off in the process.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think about all the other tools in the recent past, right? So I don't want to date myself, but think about when chat came out. That is kind of dating myself, but when chat came out, it was the alternative to voice, right? And then prior to that, you had the IVR. So I remember when you could touch tone your options, everybody was like, that's like the coolest thing ever. And so that kind of iterated a little bit more. And then you got the chat, and then you get to messaging, and you get to social media, etc. but it's all how you operationalize it and you put it to use. Because again, there's a ton of potential out there, but if you try to just go around the monopoly board and you skip over all the properties and go right to go, that's really hard to do, near impossible. And that's where I think people get a little frustrated that they can't just have, again, that immediate kind of gratification. So if you look at things that are out there, and this is the piece I get excited about, is other people are getting excited about GPT. And so if you think about things that I get excited about too, that are tools that are out there that have practical use applications, things like NLP or NLU. So if you have, and I'm sure there's a software running on the recording Zoom right now where it translates and subtitles things, but that's just taking unstructured data, grabbing it and structuring it and allowing us to, make use of it where we see later. And there's a whole variety of tools that do that. But a lot of people simply think, oh, it's kind of cool because it can subtitle this. So there's a lot of other applications that you can use where there's other software that, and in some cases, not software, like a human listening and transcribing this conversation, right? So where can we augment those things and make practical use of that? Again, I think it's more looking at a very pragmatic approach where we can apply it. And I think everything I've seen from GPT is kind of the same thing. So if you have an agent, right? If you have to reach out to a brand to help with a technical issue that they're having with the device. Let's say you're a wireless company and they have an iPhone 14s, something like that. And we know that there's 15% of the customers that contact us have this specific problem with this iPhone device or the software related to iOS release. We can, as long as GPT has access to all of that data to feed it, just like a child, you got to train it, give it access to the right information you need to operationalize it with. It can help you get to those answers quicker. And then a lot of times, if you train that with an AI and pair it with an ML, you can put that into a messaging bot or a chat bot or something like that. But again, it's not like if I make a commercial about that, everybody's going to be like, oh, wow, that's really sexy. It's just practical, and a lot of people will benefit from that.
And I agree. One of the things you and I have talked about for a long time, and I think this is where we're now starting to get the tool set that can really help us. So one of the things that, whether it's in a contact center or you look at sales and service interactions between consumers and businesses, for years and years and years, it's been like, how are the customers feeling? What are the challenges that they're having? How can we better understand what they need and get it to them proactively or sooner so that we can make more sales and keep our customers and bring in new customers and lower our cost to serve and be more profitable? Well, right. So we've done for years, sampling and surveys, and we take small comments from a small subset of our customers and try and manage our business around that. Yet now we have the opportunity to know almost every transaction, whether it's chat, voice, social media messaging, et cetera, and we capture all of that. In fact, in some cases, we're required to capture all of those contact, whether it's the original voice recording or transcribed voice recording, et cetera. What do we do with that? And I think we've struggled, because there's so much data. Like, how do we understand it? And I love the question that is asked very often about customer sentiment. Are they happy or are they not happy? Well, okay, let's say we could answer that question. Your customers are not happy. Whoa, well, okay, why? Right? And is it a one thing, right? We sold something that doesn't work, or is it a subset of customers are upset about some things and other customers like them? I use a little example. I just bought a car from Toyota that has this concept of they pump engine noise into the cockpit of the car to make it sound sportier. Yeah. And I know they use a microphone in the engine block and they have a speaker in the car. And some people really like that because they want the car to go boom when they step on the pedal. Other people are like, why can't I just take advantage of this really great cockpit that's quiet and drive the car, blah, blah, blah. And so you have a feature that may not be a feature for every customer. And the point being I'm trying to get at is, rather than making broad statements that then people have a knee-jerk reaction to, how can we better understand my individual consumer or constituent or customer needs and respond to those? Well, I think when you start to look at tools like GPT and natural language processing and natural language understanding and the ability to process millions of lines of data, very cheaply, very quickly, now I can start to get to, hey, out of the 100,000 calls that I took yesterday, what of those calls were related to a product complaint? What were related to a policy complaint? What were related to a service complaint? And start to operate with real data. That, I think, is a game changer, because when we can start to be knowledgeable and personal and proactive with our customers, our constituents, because this could be public sector as well.
Yeah.
Then we start to change things, and we can really start to go, I'm not just listening to the loud voice in the room, I'm listening to all the voices. And I use voice, generically, because it could be digital as well.
Right. Well, you're making data-driven decisions, but you're making sense of this plethora of data sitting in a large data lake that your, legal side is probably like, look, just store this data in case one day we need it, just sitting there. You can actually turn some of this technology, GPT included in some cases, right? And it can go mine what you're looking for. There's ways that you can teach it how to look at specificity of what you're looking for, what details you're looking for, and see what it produces. Put that in the hands of your data scientists and your data analysts, and it's removing the manual tasks that they have to do. And look, a lot of them are really, really much more intelligent than the both of us, or certainly me at least. But automating that, and maybe automating is not the right adjective, but at least giving them access to that, to give them more of that data in aggregate, I think they're going to be a lot better at their jobs. But that's, again, it's not like we're going to go make a commercial about that, but that's reality, how things can get done, very practical, and then we can measure it objectively. And then maybe, just maybe, we can get to a point where we're stop looking at things in arrears, based off of what actually happened, and we can start getting to a point where we can be more predictive and modeling outcomes that we want to get to based off of aggregate data, and not some minuscule sample size that, maybe I stubbed my toe right before I contacted you, and then I got a CSAT survey, so I give you a bad survey because I was mad about that.
Well, and I think you're right on, and I think that's the key. Can we start to get predictive? Can we actually do modeling rather than look at historical and draw a straight line? And I think that's been the risk in the past. I also think one of the things that you mentioned there about, how people can use the data is that not only from a data scientist looking at this, but I think one advantage of a tool like GPT or some of these new AI components is going to be the ability for non-data scientists to start to understand what the data is telling them. And I think that then is going to be really powerful, because we need to start looking at the end of the day, what are the outcomes that we're trying to accomplish in whatever we're doing? And maybe I can use an example, like, I have a client right now that's on the sales side. And so their questions are, where are leads coming from? What leads or what lead sources are performing the best? In other words, they're coming in with the right intent. I'm getting a faster lead conversion, which results in a sale. How am I doing with regard to the stickiness of those sales in the first 60 days? How are those customers doing? And being able to ask that question in almost a casual way, but ask the question to say, what do I really care about? What I care about is, am I getting to the right customers with the right product that results in an effective sale? And that's not always the question that gets asked. And I think it's really important that you have to understand those outcomes, that whatever it is that you're trying to get at, whether it's a retention thing, a security thing, compliance, whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's not a single technology or software. It's going to be taking the disparate systems that you have, marrying that unstructured data together, and then having tools that can operationalize and give you insights. I just look at it as an insight mining tool for now.
Agreed.
Again,
Agreed.
Not sexy. It's not going to go, write video game code. I'm sure someone probably could have it do that. I'm just looking very, very practically on what we can do today and then mature that up as people get more familiar with the capabilities we have. And again, I'm talking about all tools in general, not just GPT itself. There's a lot of potential out there. GPT has a lot of potential too. And I think we're kind of scratching the surface on seeing what that potential is. And we do a little bit at a time and continue to iterate and mature it up as we go.
I think one of the things that I'll be interested to see is, if you think about historically, and we mentioned some of those tools earlier, like even natural language process and natural language understanding software has kind of come and gone a little bit in terms of the buzziness of it. To your point, it was going to solve world hunger, and now it's kind of like, companies will say, yeah, we've used it in the past, but we're not really getting the value out of it. It kind of comes back to my point about, well, what did you expect, or what do you want, and have you defined that? But even like IVR, well-designed IVR tools, whether it's DTMF or natural language understanding or directed dialogue, can be very valuable used in the right way, and you're monitoring its performance. Because what I've seen with technology, you get these kind of like, we implemented it and then we forgot about it to some degree, or we just bitch about it. I remember doing an IVR analysis project for a client a few years ago, and we asked for the latest documentation on the design. It was dated 1998. And this was quite a bit later than 1998. We're probably 2015 at the time. And it's that kind of like, we wouldn't let agents operate without a high level of supervision and monitoring on their performance. Why would we let a technology that's interacting with our customers do the same? And so it gets back to kind of reporting and analysis, et cetera. So what do you think this means from a skill set perspective? Does this change how we should be training people, or the types of skills we would be looking for?
I mean, I look at it in a practical use to augment the current practice that's in place. And so that way you're not putting too many eggs in one basket, and I should say, and overextending yourself. But what can we do to help with here's the way I look at it, and this is me speaking as a trainer. I started off in a trainer decades ago, and I'll always be a trainer at heart. I think
you should go back to that, be a trainer. That would be a good place for you.
Am I not there already? Well, certainly I'm a much better trainer than I am podcaster, or whatever you call what we're doing right now. Maybe GPT can help us with the next Bantercast. But I think you look at what can you do to augment what we're doing today, and then that's where you're going to see the areas of opportunity without, again, kind of taking too much risk. There's certain risks that you can take in certain areas and spread that out, but I think in a very practical way, how can we augment the humans involved in our business today and make it easier for them? Because at the end of the day, it's all being driven, whether it's a software developer, a code writer, or a trainer who's training on a CX agent class, right, on a specific business process for a company. How we can augment that to make them more comfortable, their retention, their knowledge retention is going to increase, their speed to proficiency is going to increase, and then the customer experience that they deliver, you're going to have less human error if they're more comfortable and they have good tools that augment the side of repetitiveness and accuracy. If we can augment those things, all of those actually add up to much bigger measurable savings than if we try to just spend all of our time and effort to, invent something that's going to theoretically replace the human's job. And that's what I see a lot of companies do, is they don't take it. It's now, look, to be clear, it's a longer road. It's a much more challenging road, but I think it's a much more fulfilling and objectively measurable road based off of the, things that you and I have done as well. It's just taking another tool that has a lot of potential and figuring out how do you operationalize it, get the best out of it, and then you continue to mature that up and find new ways to leverage that tool until the next tool comes out.
Well, but you're defeating the whole silver bullet. I buy this technology and it cures all my problems. I mean, what are you talking about? You're actually talking about doing the work? Come on.
Yeah, I know. It's a pipe dream. I'm tired of coming up with magic bullet ideas. Every idea I've had has always been a magic bullet, and I get bored, so I just purposely sit back.
Let's do the work. I mean, actually, as you were talking, I was thinking about, Chat GPT, and I also have this, maybe it's probably a brand violation here, but like Marvel's Jarvis back in the Iron Man movies, at the end of the day, the concept of having that truly virtual assistant that we've talked about for years, but the idea of whether that's somebody's helping a customer, like that I have that expert in my ear, that expert that doesn't tell me what to do, but can help me get to the right answer more quickly. Yeah. I think that's where GPT is going to be really powerful, when it can do these quick searches. I mean, look, with the internet, we have access to so much information. Most of the time, people don't even know where to start. But how do we get there? And I keep coming back to, like you and I do. So what are you trying to do? What are your outcomes that you're trying to deliver? How do you measure those? And then figure it out. But it's incremental. It takes work. It takes focus. And that's where I think people get lazy at the end of the day.
Yeah. And like, look, I don't want to deter anybody from being aspirational or anything like that, but always try to balance those two out. Like, there's a lot of experiments that I, encourage my partners and my teams and my clients to do, but balance that out with things that are practical. Because you never know, sometimes, and this has happened, when you're focusing on that practical application, you're going to get other ideas on the insights that you can see from the practical application that you're experiencing, and mature that up into something that is much, much bigger. And you collaborate. Like, the more that you can collaborate and have a tool that can help with that collaboration, I think that's kind of the pathway forward too, is figuring out how we bring everybody in the world, through what we've been through the past couple of years. Everybody in the world is much more connected, or has the ability to be much more connected. Let's take advantage of that and figure new ways to do things together, and make use of this technology that, again, has so much potential, but it's only as good as you teach it and you give it access to and operationalize it. Otherwise, it's just another great idea that maybe by Christmas time something new will come out and people will be talking about that. I don't know.
Well, there will definitely be a new buzzword for 2024, like there always is. So it's just a question of what. Hey, as always, really appreciate the time, sir. Hope things are going well with you. This is really important stuff. And I think you taking the time to help with your background and experience in the work that you're doing at TTEC, being able to share this point of view is really important. And I hope that some of the people that may listen, go, technology is great, but it's like everything else. It's a tool in a toolbox. Yeah. How do I want to use it? And what does it mean to use it? And that there are going to be situations where it's not the right tool. In fact, it could be just counterproductive to what you're trying to do. So,
100%.
All right, sir. Anything else you want to close with? Any insults that I haven't heard in the last couple of days that you want to give my way?
No, that's what that's my next GPT project, is to set my insult game up. So I'll be working on that till the next Bantercast.
There we go. All right, sir. As always, have a great one. And thanks again for the time. This is Tim Keefe with Transform CX and Andreas Wieman on Bantercast. This is, I think, our fourth one, and we need to get them up and do some more often, but we really appreciate everybody's time. If you get a chance, subscribe. We'll be on YouTube, and we look forward to more conversations.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.